Well, hey there, I'm Sean LaRue with Neo Home Loans, and today I'm joined with Brenda Cooney. And she's a real estate agent in the East Valley, I believe.
Yep.
And we were introduced we have a mutual connection through my family, and she said that you're just awesome. Um, you're doing some really great things in real estate, and I introduced myself to you. I gave you a call a couple months ago, let you do your thing, checked in last week, and you're like, oh my gosh, what amazing timing. You never know what's going to happen in this amazing life that we're given. And I'm just so happy to be able to connect with you. So, hey, Brenda, how are you?
Hey, how are you, Sean? So nice to be able to sit down with you today and have a little chat.
Yeah, me too. How was your continuing ed the other day? We always love our continuing ed stuff, huh?
Well, I'm glad it's over.
Yeah.
Um, I cannot believe I did 90 hours of education to become a real estate agent because the 24 hours for continuing education seemed like a million years.
Yeah.
But interestingly enough, I did learn some things that I didn't know before. So some laws have changed, and some of the things about uh, homelessness and affordable housing are some things that I learned a little bit about that I actually kept in my pocket. So that'll help me in my career.
That's awesome. Yeah, we hear a lot of the same stuff over and over again, but I heard one statistic once that you have to hear something almost 18 times in order to like get the message. And so we're constantly getting different messages. Certain things, depending on what we're dealing with, kind of stick out or stand out a little bit more, or they're more relevant in our life. So you
True.
were saying homelessness and some of the housing concerns. Um, you heard some interesting details on that.
Yeah. So some of the stats were surprising. Arizona has about 9,600 homeless people, and California has 97,000 homeless people.
Holy
And
smokes.
I mean, the state by size, obviously California is a little bit bigger, and per capita, there's a lot more people there. So, I thought, God, we have such a terrible homeless problem here, and there should be more affordable housing, and what are they doing about it and whatnot. And um, just to hear that there's 97,000 homeless people in California blew me away.
It just kind
But
of breaks your heart, huh?
yeah, it broke my heart. And some of the things that they got coming down the line, which is Amazon sells a house now. You
Yeah.
can buy a house on Amazon. It comes in a box
Yeah.
and you set it up, and it's a tiny house.
Yeah.
Um, Also, they're making houses out of those shipping containers
Right.
to help homeless. And I mean, I kind of heard that, but I didn't know it was actually true. So
Yeah.
and kind of some stuff there that just broke my heart and made me think about things, because a lot of the people that I do get approved, they're approved for up to, say, 250,000. That doesn't buy anything anymore. You
Right.
know, that that buys you a two-bedroom, one bath. And how are they supposed to put a family in there? And that's a quarter of $1 million. That used to buy a big, huge house, and now it doesn't. So
Right. I'm finding that a lot of households are multiple families living in the same household. And you're right. I think a lot of the loan applications and to get qualified for something that is affordable as well as functional, um, sometimes we forget about the cosigner situation. They don't always have to live in the property with you. Maybe we have a family member who has a property free and clear, and they're going to live in theirs, and but they can help offset some of the logistics of like side jobs or not claiming everything on tax returns. So we're really in the environment where we need kind of creative bankers who ask more questions
Yep.
and really take the time and care to make sure that you know, every deal counts, sure, but every family counts. And if we can get more roofs over families' heads, I think that's what you and I are all about. Now, you have a really interesting story, and your passion to help the recovery community is
Yeah.
one that I just even from the first time we spoke, I think we thought it was going to be a very short conversation, but I think we ended up talking for like 20 or 30 minutes.
Right.
And so tell me a little bit about either your background with that, if you want to go into it, or what really drives you and your big heart for wanting to help so many people who are in recovery get back on their feet and get their life back.
Well, I think it's become less of a stigma. It used to be such a big stigma, oh, I'm an alcoholic. What? Everybody would freak out. And it's less of a stigma now. It's become more worldwidely known because of social media. Actors, singers, celebrities, famous people are in recovery and are doing well. And you see a lot of people that, celebrities that pass away, but then there's people in real life, your real life, your family, your friends that are um, suffering from addiction. And addiction is something that's real. It's a disease, it's progressive, and it's deadly. And it's in the medical books. I mean, insurance companies wouldn't pay for it if it wasn't a real disease. It's just like cancer or diabetes or something like that. The thing about recovery or the thing about addiction is you can't see it. You cannot see like a cut on people's hands, or you can't see, you know, like on a graph, a chart, or in their heart. There's not like some test. It's a disease of the mind, and addiction is it's a habit that you can't break, no matter how much that habit causes havoc in your life. So I used to drink a lot. I drank for many years. I think as a younger person, I probably could have been, classified as an alcoholic. However, I was able to function. And there was a certain point in my life when I couldn't function anymore. I couldn't keep a job. I couldn't drive. And I had to come to terms with my problem. And back when I used to drink a lot, I used to think it was everybody else's problem. But what I found was that it actually was a problem that was affecting me. And anything that affects me affects my family. And there's that ripple effect. It goes out. It's like you throw a pebble in the lake and the ripple goes out and out and out and out all the way to the edge. So, everything that I did affected my kids, my mom, just all the way out. So, anytime anybody would tell me that I needed to get help, I just thought they were crazy. But it was when I finally realized that I needed help, was that when I did it. And so I quit drinking. I'm 9.5 years sober. And in that 9.5 years, thank you. In that 9.5 years, I have kept the same job the entire time. I have never had to leave a job. And I've been able to reconcile with my husband, who was, he and I got divorced in 2006, and he went into a gated community, quote unquote, and for 10 years. And when he got out, he contacted me through Facebook, and we got back together and reconciled. I was able to reconcile with my kids and my mom, my parents, my brothers and sisters, and I've lived a very successful life in all ways. Spiritually, mentally, physically, emotionally. And then a year and a half ago, I lost my son to addiction, which was very difficult. And, you know, I never did fentanyl. I don't know what effect it has on people, but it is a pandemic. It is an epidemic, pardon me. And people that use fentanyl just cannot stop no matter the consequence. You know, he had overdosed several times before the final time did take his life. And at that time, I had gotten my real estate license, and I actually went to bed for about 10 months and decided not to do anything. And I didn't do anything with my license. And after I finally got out of that depression, I was able to, with the help of the program of Alcoholics Anonymous, I was able to, stay sober during that time. And I never picked up once. And I thought about it, it is definitely that it's that disease of the mind, right? It starts to fester. But I ended up meeting a lady, Stephanie Reynolds, and she is my business partner. And she had been a very successful real estate agent. And she said, I'll show you the ropes. I'll show you how to do this. And she's taught me everything. And she's one of the most selfless people I've ever met. She gives me all of the training for free. She never expects anything in return. And I have developed a very successful real estate career. So, yay me.
Yay, you. Absolutely. Well, first and foremost, thank you for sharing this with me, this very delicate information. Secondly, I'm so sorry for the loss of your son. Um,
Thank you.
I have a 6-month-old baby boy, and I can't even imagine having to go through that. How old was he?
He was 30 years old.
And what's his name?
Nathan.
Nathan.
Nay.
Nene. Well,
Yeah.
Nene, we're thinking about you, and you're in a better spot because obviously what gets you to that point is it's extremely painful. You must he must have been going through a lot.
Yep.
Um, and I'm just so extremely proud of you
Thank you.
for keeping your promise to yourself and not having a relapse. And being in bed is one thing, but being in bed and regressing, it it could have destroyed your life even more. And so,
Yeah.
um, I'm so
Well,
proud of you. I'm so proud of you. And I have my own addiction issues and concerns as well, and I'm sober. Um, I
congrats.
quit. Thank you. I quit marijuana last year. I have 1 year under my belt
Right
with
on.
with flower marijuana as of Father's Day last year because I was expecting. And since then, I've decided to. I didn't even share this with you before. I've decided to quit drinking, and just a friend of mine told me that you know, do you want to have 100% of your potential, or do you
Right.
want to have less than 100% of your
Right.
potential? And
Right.
so, thank you for sharing with us everything, and I'm so proud of you. And so that's really given you a mission
Yeah.
um, to
So,
help others. And you're right. Recovery, I think alcoholism is a disease, and we can't see it, but people who talk about it are working on it and trying to do something about it. So acknowledging and being aware is one thing, and then taking the steps to do something about it and loving yourself enough to know that you don't have to be an alcoholic the rest of your life, you can choose to do something different.
Yeah.
So talk to me about how you were able to make that choice and decide that you weren't going to be that person anymore.
Well, it really starts with one drink, right? I mean,
Right.
you just have to not do that one, because that one leads to many. So if you could just break it down to that very first drink and just say, I'm not going to take that one drink today. It's just one. It seems easier for some reason just to break it down. And it's just for today. I'm not going to talk about tomorrow or years from now or how I'm going to handle things. I mean, when I first got sober, I mean, all I did was drink before. So how do you change that habit and just start one day? You know what I mean? I mean, it just seems so big. And if you think about it as, I'm never going to drink again, it's way too huge of a problem to try to fix. So if you just say, like when I first got sober, it was this minute, I'm not going to drink. Next minute, I'm not going to drink. Next minute, I'm not going to drink. And then it was a half hour, and then it was 2 hours, and then it was a half a day, and then it was a day. And now, it's a day. It's just every day is one day that I can stay sober. That's why they say one day at a time. Because if you think about the problem, it becomes so large that it's too expansive to even, to think about. So, and then on top of that, I really am a big supporter of community. So I am part of a church. I thank God and Jesus Christ, my Lord and Savior, for everything that I have today. So my support in my church is number one. And then my support in my Alcoholics Anonymous group is definitely where that they are the key source of the company that I keep, that keeps me sober. Because what happens if you don't have this community of people that also have the same problem as you, then you start hanging around with people that drink again, it becomes normal. And you start normalizing alcohol again in your mind. And then next thing you know, your mind starts to make you believe, hey, I think one drink is okay. It's just one, because you forget how one drink leads to the next. So going through the steps, having a sponsor, doing service work, going to the meetings, greeting people at the door, running a meeting, going to the group conscience where they talk about how they can make the meetings better, what they can do, organizing events, because people that used to drink, they want to party, they still want to party. So what do? We get together and we organize events where we can have food and fun and music and
Activities,
dancing, activities. We have all
games.
kinds of picnics. We have all kinds of roundups. I'm part of a roundup committee right now that does a camping trip for 250 people at Apache Lake every November, and it's a 3-day event, and each person takes a responsibility, and so it's not so hard. You know what I mean? You have like 30
Right.
people on the committee, and each person takes a responsibility, and then 250 people get to come and have an exciting time. We have speaker events, we listen to people's stories, and we relate with each other. I mean, the way this whole thing started was back in 1939. Two guys sat down, and one guy told the other guy, I had a problem drinking and I want to stop. And the other guy said, me too. And together they talked about it with each other, and that's how they stayed sober. The key is to have that connection. So I can't stay sober unless I help others stay sober.
And I think that's an amazing point. And plugging back into your community, it helps you develop relationships and relate to people that are going through the exact same thing. And
Yep.
what ends up happening is you have to go to these meetings because you want to catch up with them and make sure they're doing okay and hear their story this week about what's going on, and they really can relate to what you're going through, and you have somebody and a group of people that you can bounce these different ideas off of and share like, man, this was a really hard week. I was so triggered. Listen to this. And,
Yep.
and they listen and then they get to take their turn and you get to listen. And I think if you don't have a community like that, or if you're really deep in your addiction, whatever it might be, um, part of the problem is that you're disconnecting from the community and different organizations and hobbies and interests where you don't have any accountability. You're not going to church or, I went to the youth group a lot growing up. I was in Boy Scouts. I played basketball. Um, I was really involved with work and travel and being plugged in, you stay too busy to abuse these substances because you're living life. And so I'm just so proud of you for being involved and it sounds like you're a leader in your group. Um, and I'm sure you're a leader in your church as well.
I don't know
And
how I do it.
so
People think I'm a leader, and I don't feel like a leader. I feel like I'm just like there for the ride. You know what I mean?
that's why they call it servant leadership, is
Yep.
because you don't feel like you're leading, but
Yep.
when you care so much about the health and well-being of your people, it doesn't have to feel like work when you have the right purpose,
Right.
right? So,
Well, the hard
um,
part is trying to help people in recovery buy a house.
yes.
Most people in recovery have destroyed everything in their path. Okay.
So, tell me a little bit about how somebody would be in recovery and what steps they basically take, because we talked about it initially on our first call. Tell me like what that looks like and how somebody um, who's watching this, who might want to get in touch with you and how to take these steps, how would somebody be able to accomplish that? Because if they found this video, they're obviously reaching out, they're wanting to make a change, but maybe they're not quite there yet because they don't think they can do it.
Right.
What are some of those steps and how do you coach people through that?
So it's really important to to get your credit in line, to have a good rental history, to have a good job that and a good job history. Um, the thing is there are different types of loans. So there's all kinds of different types of loans. Conventional and FHA are really going to require you to have conventional, you have to have a really good credit score, um, and a good job history. And with that, you will have had to pay taxes. Some people have a great job, but they don't pay taxes. You have to be able to prove that you've paid your taxes. FHA is a little bit lenient on the credit report, and they have down payment assistance programs. So they're a little bit more, those are probably, I would say, 70 to 80% of the people get FHA loans because of that situation. They're able to get down payment assistance, they're able to have a lower credit score. People that have been in recovery tend to let things go, they don't pay things. When I first got sober, I had a $13 collection from a collection agency. $13. Why didn't I
I'm
pay
not
it?
paying that.
That freaking thing. You know what I mean? Because I just
It's
you just
13 bucks, but it's the principle of it. I'm not paying for it.
I'm not
No, but
paying
but
because I could.
but pay it.
Yeah.
Take care of your responsibilities
Right.
is what
So
you're
take care
saying.
of those
Yeah.
responsibilities, and typically it's about 12 months. So you want 12 months of good job history, good credit, and rental history can come into effect in that way. Most people that come to me from in recovery, they want to rent. The problem with that is if you don't have a good rental history, I'm not going to be able to help you because I don't have a magic wand just because I'm in recovery and you're in recovery. I the people who are renting the properties, the property managers, they don't care. They want to
Right.
see a good rental history.
Right.
So, and they don't want felons. Most of them don't want felons. So I've actually collected a lot of names of different companies that will take felons and will take people that just based on a couple of paychecks and no rental history. So then now you start establishing that. You know what I'm saying? So now let's get the ball rolling
Yeah.
and stick to that. So I can get you into one of these, rinky dink places and you stay there and you get your rental history. You keep your job, don't change jobs. That's one thing that people make a big mistake is they think, um, oh, I can get a better job here and make more money. But we need you to have that job history. So if you stay with the same career, sometimes that's okay. So if you're a landscaper and you want to go, to another landscaping company, that's that type of change of job is okay. But if you're a landscaper and now you want to go, uh,
Into a
work at
call center or
a
something.
call
Yeah.
center or a trailer company or something, that's a complete change and that's not good.
Yeah.
Um, what I normally do when people first reach out to me is just I have a couple of lenders. Hey, Sean, I'll send them over to you, and I'll just say, hey, and I'll introduce you to the person and say, hey, can you tell me what this person needs to do? And then if they're a good lender, um, they will put them on a plan and say, this is what I need you to do. Here's your credit score. We need to get it at this. So pay this, this, and this off. And then we'll rerun your credit score and see where that's at. But then you also need to stay on your job for another 6 months and you need to save up this amount of money. And that lender is key to my success. So it's really important that I have a good couple of lenders in my briefcase so that I can pull them out when I need them.
Yeah.
But the main thing is sticking to the program and making it work. And so people that have been in long time recovery in general they've already proven that they can stick to a program.
Yeah.
Um, People that have new recovery gets a little bit harder
A
because
little dicey.
they're
Yeah.
a little, honestly, they're new shiny thing, new shiny thing, new shiny thing. I mean, it's like I talk to them and I tell them what they need to do. And next thing you know, they're on to some new shiny thing because now they've done a little bit of what I've asked them to do. And now all of a sudden their credit looks good. Well, let me go buy a brand new Corvette. I mean,
Right.
that's not going to help you buy a house.
It's about staying on the path,
Yes,
staying committed, and
yes,
as you're bettering your life, it takes a little bit more discipline to stay in your lane
yes,
because I mean what we're talking about is like a 12-month to 24-month cycle, and if you
yeah,
can stick with it without any career changes, you said landscaping, if you go from a W-2 or hourly wage to bartending, which would be a terrible choice, but
right.
let's say you're waiting tables and you're getting tips or something like that, you're in a completely different kind of mathematical calculation because you have to have almost a 24-month history if you're getting commissions or bonuses or tip income if you're not on a higher hourly rate. So that's that's why you don't have to have the same job. It helps being in the same industry because you're building that history, and it's something that the underwriters can start counting on. But I think in recovery too, you have to have a lot of consistency and discipline in order to do this. So if you're able to stick to it a little bit longer and forego buying that new Corvette, um, you don't want to take on a new payment because that's going to screw up the plan. If you take on a $600 a month payment, you just lost 100 to $125,000 in purchasing power,
Right.
and kind of shot yourself in the foot for your ability to save whatever your situation is. You know, down payment assistance programs are awesome. Getting your credit score up is even better. Um, I was thinking earlier, man, I think you're doing my job today with the whole credit, income, assets, and all these programs. um, I'm loving it today because at least it's not me talking about loan programs, but um, it's true, and you need to have that 24-month history. Our system is very forgiving, actually, and as long as you have uh, a couple of different credit cards, a couple of different open lines of credit, you can rebuild that credit very quickly. As you're saying, pay the collections, pay the $13 collections. Like, I don't care what your opinion is about it, just pay it. Stop
Right.
fighting everybody. Um, and then you're saying through recovery, you see all these shiny things. I think there's a real emotional development happening there too, where, you know, you're realizing you have another chance at life and you get to decide how you feel about things because you're not just chasing the bottle all the time or feeding your addiction, whatever it is. And so the new shiny things are good for you to kind of discover who you are, what you like, how you feel about things. Um, but keep and stay focused on the path for the long term because once you have the house, once you have a stable housing situation, then you can upgrade to a car
Yeah.
or try some of these other things. Um, but we didn't get here overnight, did we?
No.
so 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 I just think the coaching and everything, you're just so spot on with everything that you're saying. What is something you've thought about while I've been jabbering on here
Well, I
that
started
you've
thinking about the NAR settlement, and I don't know if you know anything about that, but my battery's going to die in a minute, so I need to like hook up to the wall real quick.
okay? Are you like in your lap too?
I'm on my laptop.
You're on your laptop, but is your laptop on your legs or
It's
on
on a
a
table. It
table?
keeps moving, huh?
Yeah,
I
it's
know. I
shaking a
know.
little bit. But I can cut all this out, so don't worry about it.
Yeah, I figured you could. If you want to meet Stephanie, you can.
That'd be great.
Hi,
Hey, Stephanie, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for taking Brenda under your wing. You've made a real impact on her life, and
Well, yeah,
she's
but
saying
she
some
had
good
all of
things.
that inside her. She just needed to have someone help her unlock that potential. There are
We all
very
have
few
the
people that I will train. Brenda's the first one that I actually said, yes, I will, because she is a go getter. She has the desire and the drive, and she doesn't sit still and expect you to do everything for her. I don't have time. I'm super busy. I don't have time for people who say, oh, I really want to follow you around for the day. I'm like, no. No. There's
yeah.
several that have asked,
Please,
and they've even
please no.
circled around and asked Brenda
Yeah,
when, oh, what do you do? You go, what do you do? And Brenda will tell them she doesn't have time. And I finally had to tell one, listen, I love you. You're a wonderful person, but I don't have time for someone who isn't going to do what I tell them to do. And Brenda does. What I tell her to do, she does. And she listens to the way I talk to people, and she absorbs that. She's like a sponge. She draws it in, and she's able to articulate those things instead of just sitting around waiting for me to tell her what to do. She watches how I respond to people and situations, and she's really good at that. She's all plugged in though.
that's awesome.
Thank you. So hopefully you and Stephanie can get together and do a little podcast.
Yeah, I sent
stuff.
an
Yeah,
email. Yeah, so that'd be
Okay,
great.
good.
I'd love to do that.
Awesome.
that'd be
So
great.
let me know.
That little clip right there is going to be a huge testimonial for you. So I'm definitely going to use that. And I think what I just got out of that was that we all have the light. We all know it's there, but you found somebody that knew that you were tenacious enough um, to go get it because nothing's going to be handed to you. This business takes a heck of a lot of work, and nothing's going to be handed to you. So you got to do those actions every day to be in real estate. And I'm so happy that you guys found each other. How did you guys meet?
I moved to Sun Lakes. She lived in Sun Lakes already, and she was selling a house in Sun Lakes. I was looking for a house for my mom, and this was after my son had passed, and I was trying to kind of get out of my depression. And I, at the time, was working as a referral agent. When you're a referral agent, you're not allowed to sell. You can only do referrals when you sign up in that specific way.
Yeah.
And so I walked in the house. She was doing an open house, and I said, hey, my mom really likes this house. If you sell her the house, will you give me a referral? And she said, well, you only get a referral if you're an agent. I said, yeah, I'm an agent. I just don't use my license. And she was like, why not? I said, well, I haven't found anybody in the industry that's willing to train me. And I have never done a contract. I've never talked to anybody about real estate. I have never done anything, and I'm scared. And nobody in the industry, I had asked people, and they said, I don't have time to train. And she just stood up, and she's 4'10", so I waited for her to really stand up, but she stood up and she gave me the biggest hug, and she said, I will show you everything about this industry if you just come and work with me. And I said, I would love that.
And does he not put the people in our lives that
I
we
know.
need?
I know.
My gosh.
And I told her about my son, and I started bawling, and she started bawling, and we just like immediately connected. We were kindred spirits from the very beginning. I mean, God really put her into my life to help me, because there wasn't one single person that was unselfish enough. And she just said she never trains people.
Yeah.
She doesn't take people under her wing, but she saw something in me that, it was God given. It was meant to be.
You must have just prayed about it, and there she was, huh?
There she was.
There she was. That is so beautiful.
So the NAR settlement.
Want to go there?
Yeah. Have you
What's
heard
the latest?
about it?
You were just in training yesterday, so what did you hear?
Well, I mean, the NAR, the settlement that's coming down the line, which nobody really knows exactly what it says unless you're a really good reader and you love to read, and I'm not one of those people. So I kind of go off what I hear on the internet and what I hear in the rooms. And it's basically that, consumers sued the National Association of Realtors, stating that we as realtors took advantage of them and price fixed. So they ended up winning, from what I understand. So the settlement, basically, when you go into a listing appointment, you would go to your client and say, here, we're going to put your house on sale, and then there's these fees that are attached. The fees are, you're going to pay the seller agent X amount, and you're going to pay the buyer agent X amount. It's up to you how you want to strategize to pay those two things. Fees can be anywhere from 6%, where you pay 3% on one side, 3% to one, 3% to the other. Or you can say, I don't want to pay 6%. I want to pay 5%. You pay 2.5%, 2.5%. You can say you don't want to pay the buyer's agent. The settlement basically said that we, as realtors, told the seller that they are required to pay the buyer agent, and they had to pay 6%. And I think, somebody probably somewhere does that. That's not our model. That's not how we work. But also so then you sign this agreement, whatever it is. And then there's a couple different ways that the payment to the buyer agent is advertised. And one of them is on MLS. And I think that's actually the only source, unless you actually call the agent themselves. So on the MLS listing, it would normally say, buyer agent percentage payment would be 3%. So part of the settlement is they want to take that away. The buyer agent is no longer allowed to be able to see what they're going to get paid, because then that would promote, they're saying that would promote agents to seek out the highest paid houses and only show those, right? Well, that's not how we work. Maybe some realtor somewhere does. There's definitely unscrupulous people. But also that you have to sign a buyer's agreement with your buyer now before you even go out and show them houses, that says, if the seller is not paying a buyer agent, you're going to have to pay me. So whatever that percentage is. So buyers who already have to, meet all this criteria credit wise, they have to come up with this huge down payment, now are going to have to agree to pay a buyer agent just in case the seller is not paying the buyer agent. It seems unfair, but it just seems like that's where it's going.
Yeah.
So this
It
starts.
seems like there's a lot more disclosures happening, and at the end of the day,
Yes.
the dust is going to continue to settle down, kind of back to where the market's been, but the disclosure and the discussion and the expectation setting that we'll have kind of around that, like Mr. Seller, would you like to sell your house for top dollar? This is how we do it. This is how, if you don't offer a commission to the buyer's agent, then the buyer's going to have to figure that out on their own. And oh, by the way, this might signal to them that you're being cheap, or didn't keep the property up because you're cheap, or you're going to be
Right.
difficult to work with. I actually think there's a great opportunity here for better communication all the way around, because
Sure.
as buyer agents, typically it's the old adage is, well, you're not paying for it, the seller is. And then the seller's agents are like, well, you're not paying for it, the buyer's loan or cash is paying for it,
Right.
whatever the price is. So, like, we're all pointing the finger at somebody else instead of just stating, like, how would you like to do this? Would you like to have it included
Right.
in the price? Seller, do you want to offer a commission so that we can get your property sold at top dollar to the most buyers? Do you want to be somebody that's easy to work with? Not easy to work with, but that's helpful to navigate all these different steps in the process, and
Right.
kind of signal to our buyers agents and buyers, really, have the optimal solution so it's a win-win. You want to sell, you want to buy, they love your house, you want out. Let's put this together. And I think at the end of the day, it's just really kind of closing the gap on that communication. And the contract's gotten a lot bigger since the 70s,
Oh yeah.
because we just continuously kind of go over all of these topics and different things. And the reality is that we can't talk about every situation that's going to come up every single time. But I think that we can kind of set some expectations and create space to communicate and discuss certain things that could happen, and kind of eliminate some of those doubts, fears, and issues that might come up by having those conversations up front. And so, I mean, we've got another 2 months here before it goes into effect. If you've already put your house on the market, you have a listing agreement already. They're already offering, compensation to a buyer's agent. Um, if Let me ask you this: how are you guys handling open houses right now? And what are you doing about doing open houses, or showing properties to buyers right now?
Well, I have had the opportunity for two different situations where I've told my buyers, and these were new buyers that came to me, either a friend or some people that found me on Facebook, where I've given the new procedure, a little test, and I've asked them to sign the buyer's agreement ahead of time before we go and look at houses. I mean, typically, what I'm going to do is I am going to take them to one house. And then while we're at that house, I am going to explain to them that it is customary to sign a buyer agreement. And because of the NAR settlement that's coming, there's going to be a possibility that in the future, because I might not have a time frame, and in the future we might run into a situation where you really love a house and they're not paying a buyer agent. So I'm going to need you to sign a buyer agreement stating that you would pay me, and we can either ask for concessions or you can add it onto your loan amount. And how do you feel about that? And both times in person, the people were like, yeah, I'll sign that. No problem. But then later when I was like, hey, let me get that email so I can, send you that buyer agreement, crickets. One buyer did say that they're going to wait because they have a lease and their lease isn't up till November. So that made perfect sense. Could have been a story, could have been real. It is what it is. The other buyers are friends of mine and just haven't heard back from them. I assume they're super busy because they're not in any hurry or rush. They both still live with their parents, so they're not worried about getting out of any place anytime soon.
If I can chime in, I think it's
Yes.
really interesting because as professionals, you know, buyers have been able to send us a text saying, "Hey, we're outside this house. There's a sign in the yard. What do you know about it? Drop what you're doing. Come show it to me." And we're just asked to have all of this loyalty to our buyers. What I just heard you say is that this is actually a great opportunity to see what kind of loyalty, what kind of agency and priority should we be putting on our clients with the energy they're giving back to us.
Right.
And so I think it's a really good kind of seesaw effect in trying to figure out, like, is this person worth my time? Is this client going to get back to me? And I love that you stayed positive with it, that your friends haven't gotten back to you, and that you're giving them the benefit of the doubt, whether that's true or not. But I believe it to be true because you said it like totally 100. People's lives are busy and we have to give our clients the benefit of the doubt. But if you set the expectation
Yeah.
that this is what's going to be normal going forward. Look, if you don't want to sign this and you have no loyalty to me, we'll schedule it when we get it scheduled. But this is my
Yeah.
process. I need you approved. I need to know your timeline. If you know, like, and trust me, let's work together. But, you know, do you want to pay for it up front, or are we looking for properties where the seller is going to be offering the compensation? Because it's a conversation that needs to be had and the expectation needs to be set from the get-go with no surprises, right?
And that's essentially what it boils down to. Do you want to just look at houses where they're offering a buyer, uh, pay? And if that's a buyer agent pay, and if that's the case, then it's just going to be a little bit harder in the future because we're going to have to make those calls and say to the, it looks like I cut out real quick. We're going to have to make those calls and call the seller agent because it's not going to be listed on MLS. And we're going to say, hey, are you paying a buyer agent? Because my client only wants to see houses where the seller is paying the buyer agent. So it's just going to be an
And
extra step. It's not that we're not going to know because we can just call. The only
yeah,
problem with that is some seller agents or some agents in general don't answer their phone, especially
right.
some of the investor companies that have come into town and really, swiped up a lot of properties. they don't answer. They're like this huge conglomerate company, and you have to be transferred from this department to that department. And those people, that it's really hard to get personal service.
But I think you just hit the nail on the head, and I hadn't thought about this before, but like, how do you search for the properties that are only offering that when your buyer literally doesn't have the cash to get into the property? Maybe we are using a down payment assistance program and we can get seller closing cost credits and we can cover it normally, but on a $300,000 house to cough up another $6,000 to $9,000 in cash, I think the market and listing agents are going to come around to the new norm that gets us back to the same place where we
Right.
are. But
Right.
it's the communication and setting those expectations up front, and especially for first time
Right.
sellers, especially for first time buyers, and having that consideration and a professional, and it's good. I mean, it's uncomfortable with how all the unknowns have been recently, but I think going forward it's going to be a much better market going forward. So
Yep. Yes, sir.
um, what did we miss? We didn't stick to the script at all,
Not
but
at all. I
I
think we
love
could
our
probably
conversation
talk
today.
for another 24 hours and never get tired. I don't think we missed anything. I mean, if we do it again, I'd probably tell you some pretty cool stories that I've of something that happened during a buy and sell situation that I thought was pretty divine intervention. Um, maybe we'll get into something like that in the future.
I'd love to have a follow-up call with you, and we can talk about some of our fun war stories in the market. Um, it's always interesting. No two deals are the same.
Nope.
No two buyers have the same personality, and no two homes have the same problem. And that's a great point, is that like you can't just rely on what your family members or coworkers are saying. This is really an individual experience. You qualify individually the way you qualify dealing with your past credit, your current income, how you pay taxes, how you keep money in the bank, what your investments have been. And so your situation as the buyer or seller is going to be completely different than even a family member or your coworker. And there's just no way to know how this will play out. So
Nope.
that's one of the
We'll see.
beautiful things is rely on a professional. Brenda, what markets are you in? Are you in the Gilbert Chandler area?
Yeah, I would say Gilbert, Chandler, Tempe, Mesa, Apache Junction.
Awesome.
I'm also doing a lot of Phoenix homes because my church is in Phoenix.
Okay.
So and I started going to this church 5 years ago, and I don't have a desire to find another church. So when I moved to the
Good.
East Valley, I just thought, well, it's a 45-minute drive on Sunday, no big deal.
Well,
So,
for your privacy, let's not mention the church's name. If somebody wants to reach out to you, how do they get a hold of you?
well, they can always get a hold of me on Facebook. I am the Recovery Realtor, Brenda Cooney on Facebook. My phone number is 480-353-0313. My email is brenda.i.cooney, the number one, at gmail.com. And I also have a website. It is www.thesistersofsales.com.
I love that. And all of those links and everything should be in the description below. Brenda, why don't you email me back with those links, with the website, and we'll make sure that anybody seeing this on your socials, I'm sure they're going to see it on your Facebook. I'm sure they're going to see it on your Instagram. But if you have a YouTube channel or something like that, I know it'll be posted on mine. So We'll have all that information for you. If you're still listening, please subscribe and hit the notification bells. Brenda, it's just been a pleasure, and I look forward to our next conversation with some of these war stories, and
Yeah.
and hopefully, not hopefully, I know we'll be having some of our own war stories here pretty soon because we're going to be helping out a lot of recovering buyers. So,
Yes.
thank you so much for your time today.
You
I
bet.
love the horns. I love the Margaritaville. Where are you guys at right now? Is this
Isn't
somebody's
that
house
hilarious? I'm in
or
recovery and it
office?
says
Yeah,
Margaritaville.
I mean,
Um,
it's pretty freaking perfect. But yeah, where are you right
this is
now?
Stephanie's house, and
This is Stephanie's house.
this is her Arizona room, and it's dolled up with all kinds of signs and different wonders and all kinds of neat stuff. So
I love it.
yeah.
Like the one that says, "I laughed so hard, tears ran down my legs."
Down my legs.
We live in a senior community. That's a real thing.
Well,
One
you guys just bring a lot of energy and positivity to the real estate market, and I'm so blessed to connect with you. And
Well,
let's do it
thank you
again
for the
soon.
opportunity.
My pleasure.
Have a
We'll
great
talk
day.
soon.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.